Superheroes aren't often allowed to settle down, so if they do end up starting a family, we tend to take notice. But not always. There are many superhero kids out there fans actually have missed. What if I told you that Captain America, one of the Earth's mightiest and greatest superheroes, was actually the father of Red Skull? Would you be amazed? Confused? Would you even believe me? Well, guess what? It's true. But it was only made possible by the existence of alternate Earths. Yep, Captain America is actually the father of Red Skull in the ultimate reality on the Earth of 1610. Here, before he shipped out and went missing in action, he had one final night with his love and fiancée, Gale. Yeah, not Peggy. In this reality, he's with Gale. Gale learned that she was pregnant and was convinced by the US government to carry the pregnancy to term but leave her child in their care, since her baby would be the child of one of the greatest heroes and a super soldier. This was a mistake because through this colder, more militaristic upbringing where the child was constantly treated like federal property, because he was, and compared to his father, he became unstable and ultimately rebelled, escaping and becoming this Earth's version of Red Skull, even literally removing his face in an attempt to distance himself from his father's legacy. Red Skull is one of the most unexpected children of a superhero that I personally have ever seen. What super kids surprised you when you learned about them? Let me know in the comments. While my Ultimate Comics fans may know of Red Skull and may have heard of that one, this next child of a superhero is so obscure I didn't even know about him before now. That's right, I just found out about this one, which is why I'm sharing him with you. This is Jake Grayson. He is the son of Nightwing and Starfire from an alternate reality. In this reality, his mother Corey left Dick when her son was still young. Before Jake was born in this universe, Dick Grayson was forced during a battle to activate a device which removed 90% of the superpowers on the planet, including the superpowers of Jake's mom, Starfire. Dick Grayson became a spokesperson for an anti-superpowered way of life, believing it was the best way to protect the world from superpowered threats. So when Jake's powers started to manifest, which he'd inherited from his mother's alien physiology, he actually hid this from his dad. Eventually the truth would come out, and ultimately Nightwing would end up seeing the error of his ways, accepting his son, and choosing to welcome in a new generation of young superpowered heroes. Nightwing and Starfire have a few alternate reality kids, but you know who doesn't usually get as many stories about their potential offspring? Bucky Barnes. Now granted, Bucky hasn't always been a hero. He's been an anti-hero, a villain, and even just an ally, but he also has been known for his heroic sensibility as well quite a bit of the time. And he's also literally been Captain America, so I think we can count him here on this list still. His alternate reality granddaughter first appears in Heroes Reborn issue number 0.5. Here Rebecca is implied to be the granddaughter of Peggy Carter and Bucky. Nightstar is the daughter of Nightwing and Starfire. She hails from the Kingdom Come reality of Earth 22. In this reality, her mother not only separated from Dick, but also returned to Tamaran to rule alongside Ryander. And to top off her already prominent absenteeism so far, Starfire also died before the major events in this world took place. Not sure what is up with Nightwing and Starfire having children together in alternate realities, and then Starfire just like dipping and basically getting written out of those stories earlier on, but that happens quite a bit. Anyways, I digress. Nightstar doesn't always see eye to eye with her father, and as a result they end up on opposite sides of the major conflict in the Kingdom Come universe, with Mari siding with Batman while Nightwing sided with Superman. However, Nightstar still came to her father's side when he was in danger and even saved his life. This next one is probably one of the most bizarre superhero children on our list. This is Nomad. Who is Nomad? Well, you might be able to guess from his superhero code name who he's going to be connected to in the superhero community. Know of anyone else who has gone by the name Nomad in the past? Yep, that's right. Nomad is the son of Captain America. Sort of. Genetically speaking, he is Arnim Zola's son, but he was raised by Captain America, who actually rescued him when he was only an infant. Nomad would eventually be reclaimed by Zola, who brainwashed him to hate Captain America, but Cap would help to break the hold of this brainwashing over Nomad, allowing them to become allies once more. Sharon Carter would also become like a mother to him, although she would also kinda accidentally try to kill him, that's a whole thing. And all of this went down in Dimension Z. If you're wondering why it all sounds so crazy, that's why. Dimension Z is Arnim Zola's own dimension that is populated by mutates and kinda like cybernetic entities. This next child is one of Batman and Catwoman that has existed in multiple different realities, though never in the main continuity sadly, at least not yet. Helena Wayne is most often known as hailing from Earth 2 or even New 52 Earth 2, which is its own thing, and also Earth 2, the original, which is spelled TWO instead of Britain as a number. So even though, yeah, I know I said Earth 2 twice, they're different. Yeah, alternate Earths over at DC are confusing. This Helena Wayne, however, is from her non-numbered alternate Earth, first appearing in a possible future as seen in the Batman story Last Rites. She would also make an appearance in the Batman Catwoman series, which was set in the same reality. In this universe, Helena becomes Batwoman instead of the more common Huntress. Speaking of couples that we all would love to see settle down and have a family, this child of a superhero comes from one of the tops for most of us, I think. Although I'm not really convinced that either of the folks from this couple are the settle down and have kids types. We're talking about Gambit and Rogue and their daughter from an alternate reality, the younger sister of Ollie, their son, Becca. Becca always had a closer relationship with her father, and later in her life actually became the person who kind of keeps the family together because of that. After the loss of her mother, Rogue, her family's relationship to one another becomes strained, and she kind of becomes the sole way her dad and her brother even communicate with each other. Well, Gambit and Rogue's children, I'm actually really interested in seeing if that ever does happen one day. This one comes from a pairing that I'm not as interested in seeing the offspring of. We're talking about Lara from Earth 31 and her parents, Superman and Wonder Woman. Look, I know there are a lot of you out there who love and ship Clark and Diana together, and I know you're probably thinking, Amanda, why don't you want to see those two together? But I just can't. If anything, I actually think I prefer Batman and Wonder Woman to Superman and Wonder Woman if like I have to choose, but really I just prefer for those three to like just be colleagues and close friends instead of like getting together romantically at all. However, in this world that is exactly what happened and more. Earth 31 is in essence Frank Miller's DC universe, also known as the Dark Knight universe. Here Superman and Wonder Woman get together and have two children, with Lara being the eldest. Her powers are a combination of both her parents' abilities, making her insanely powerful. Also, for some reason, her hair is blue. Hunter Prince is the son of Wonder Woman. Initially, many people thought that his father might be Batman, which would mean he comes from the one pairing from that holy trinity I said I could at least tolerate. However, it was actually revealed that Hunter was the son of Wonder Woman and an entity known as the Darkness. While Wonder Woman is his birth mother, Diana gave him to Lois and Clark to raise when he was a baby. She did this hoping that this would basically limit the risk of him becoming an even more powerful and probably villainous entity than the Darkness, feeling that Lois and Clark were better equipped to raise him, basically. But Hunter thought that Wonder Woman actually abandoned him because he was a boy, because she's an Amazon. Well, in most alternate realities, Wonder Woman has daughters if and when she settles down. Hunter is one of her few alternate reality sons that exist, which is why I feel like most people might not know about him. He comes from a Justice League story called Legacy, which introduced us to a bunch of potential future children of our favorite heroes. This top spot is also another child that I just learned about myself. The Wolf, like Jake Grayson, is a completely new one for me. I knew about Quanon having a daughter in the main continuity, but Sora is her daughter from an alternate reality, and Quanon isn't even the only Soup that the Wolf is related to. Her mom is Quanon and her dad is Forge. What an interesting couple. I'm trying to imagine the two of them on a date together, and I'm struggling. I wonder where they'd go. But regardless, something must have clicked for them, because Sora does exist. Or at least she does exist in her reality of Earth 200368 from Captain Marvel: The End. Granted, this is also a reality where the Earth became uninhabitable, causing many of the people on its surface to die, so Forge and Quanon were among the limited few who survived this, which might explain how it made it more likely for them to come together. I mean, they're both also mutants, but yeah, it's just a weird pairing. You don't see it often.
Starting off with the son of the Black Panther, a man who respects the family tradition of naming your superhero persona after a type of cat, T'Chaka, known by his fellow heroes as Cool Tiger. Cool Tiger is, of course, the Prince of Wakanda. He grew up in the most technologically advanced society Earth 982 has ever seen. This is also the Earth where everything happens about 15 years before when it happened on Earth 616, so many of the heroes we know are retired and their kids have started taking their places. Cool Tiger, he's a lot like his dad, determined, strong leader, excellent fighter, but him and his dad differ in a big way. Most versions of T'Challa, he is an enhanced man, but the cat part is a suit. It's a suit he puts on. T'Chaka is actually a guy that transforms into a cat, so he's closer to something from the Animorph Kids book series. The panel where he transforms is literally the cover of one of those books. T'Chaka's cat form gives him all the powers T'Challa has, and his suit gives him. Cool Tiger has helped the Avengers of his world and later joined the reserves. This Cool Tiger is actually the second Cool Tiger to exist. T'Challa was Cool Tiger on Earth 355 a few years before this one debuted. Cool thing to know about that, this version of T'Challa was based on the original design for him, and it's hard to imagine that the Black Panther was once called Cool Tiger and wore bright yellow. Wonder Woman's son from an alternate timeline has only appeared about 8 times and has suffered so much. He also has one of the coolest names I've ever heard, Hunter Prince. Cool name, cool mom, but not a cool dad. His dad in this alternate timeline is the Darkness, a fear creature. The Darkness found the dark feelings Wonder Woman kept deep inside and latched onto those, infecting her, which caused Hunter. It happened so the Darkness could eventually have a new kind of embodiment in the future. Obviously, Wonder Woman was not on board with this plan, so she sent little Hunter to the only couple she trusted to raise the boy in a pure and good manner, the Kents, Clark and Lois. However, in the past, Amazons who give birth to sons often send them away because all Amazons were women, so Hunter thought that that was the reason his mom sent him away, because he was a boy and not because he had the potential to become a vessel for darkness. Hunter lived a good life with the Kents, but eventually his dad started destroying the Earth. Hunter was sent to Olympus for protection, and I will say it worked. He survived, but his adopted family didn't. He gets involved with a bunch of time travel stuff. The good thing that comes out of it is he gets to confront his mom about abandoning him. Eventually, there is a big final battle that ends with mother and son hugging it out. Hunter is still alive, and he was a more recent DC character addition, so there is hope he will be seen again. Peter Parker is honoring his family's legacy by naming his 2 kids after 2 important family members. In the world the Maker messed with to make it so no heroes came to be, Earth 6160, Peter Parker actually got to settle down for once and live a quiet life. He married MJ and had 2 cute kids, Richard and May. This is a pretty new Earth, it debuted a year ago, but Richard and May debuted almost 6 months ago. They really are Peter's kids. Richard is super smart for his age, a proper prodigy, and May is showing promise in the arts. In this world, May is actually the reason the Spidey suit takes on this iconic red and blue. Before, her dad was wearing an all-black suit, and that really scared May, so she helped her dad redesign it to be less scary, creating the iconic Spider-Man suit we all love. May was the first of the 2 kids to swing around the city with her dad. Both kids seem to have inherited the Parker sass and humor, which is the most important thing. The Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 3 comics, they are still coming out, so if you haven't picked up the story yet, consider this your sign for the universe to start. I'm including this one for me and any millennials out there that refer to their pets as their fur babies or kids. One of my favorite heroes, Sleepwalker, he created Dog Walker. He created a dog for himself. Sleepwalker's thing is that he was accidentally bonded to a human, so he tries to understand what it's like to be a human so him and his host can get along better. He noticed lots of people had dogs, so he made himself Dog Walker as a way to better understand human nature. Tears were shed when I found this out, and I'm not ashamed of that. Dog Walker has appeared 2 times since his debut in 2018. King Black Bolt and Queen Medusa of the Inhumans royal family gave birth to their son, Ahura. However, Medusa wasn't allowed to do that. Turns out they needed permission from the Genetic Council to have a kid, and they didn't get that permission slip, so Ahura gets to suffer for it. As a child, he is taken by the council to the Terrigen Mist, a mist that alters the biology of Inhumans. It did give him his notable power, which is the small silver lining here. He can split his soul, creating psychic phantom versions of himself that are able to fight and use weapons kind of like an army. Then the council ships this kid off to Earth, and to make matters worse, when he gets to Earth, his ship crashes. It's pretty much the worst day of this kid's life. Don't get me wrong, like other super kids, Ahura does have other really bad days, like, for example, that time a member of the Genetic Council kidnapped him to steal his powers, or the time he was locked up and driven to insanity that got worse as his powers grew, or that time he was replaced by a Skrull, or that time Kang the Conqueror manipulated him and he had to possess Kang to get him to leave him alone, or the time when he had to watch his dad be a father figure to someone else when he never got that treatment and then had to sift through his dad's traumatic memories to save Black Bolt from a monster. Yeah, he could have had it better. That last one did have a positive outcome. Uhura understood his father better and they were able to reconcile. Carrie Allen is Barry Allen's kid and dresses like Kid Flash. She originated in the Superman and Batman Generations series. The series follows the two heroes through their life, including their family life, and that's where Carrie comes in. The focus might be on Superman and Batman, but the other members of the Justice League and their families are featured too. Carrie Allen takes after her father. She is fast, funny, and fearless. She single-handedly goes after Bruce Wayne Jr.'s Batman when he's acting a bit unhinged and out of line. She loses the fight with him, but it was brave of her to go. She later ends up in the mountains with her boyfriend Green Lantern to track down Sinestro. Pretty much all the powers Barry Allen's Flash had, his daughter has too, so she is quite powerful and quite fast. She's just still figuring it all out. Offspring, son of Plastic Man, he had to make the list because his name fits it perfectly. Don't worry, Plastic Man didn't name his son Offspring, that would be mean. He actually named him Ernie Luke O'Brien. Just because Plastic Man was his superhero father doesn't mean he was a good one. Plastic Man was not super involved in Offspring's life, and it did have an effect on the young hero. Offspring started out joining a street gang at a young age 10. Offspring's mom, Angel, called his father hoping that since he's a superhero, he would be able to get Offspring off the streets. Turns out Plastic Man is a big coward and made Batman do it instead. Plastic Man better be careful with that choice. We all know how fast Batman will adopt a troubled kid. Eventually, Offspring and his dad repaired their relationship. Offspring became one of the recruits for the Teen Titans. While on the team, he saved depowered heroes and assisted on missions. Like his dad, Offspring, he's stretchy. He is also able to do the whole shape-shifting thing too. Earth 6706 is home to quite an interesting royal family. 5 kids, Remy, Valeria Fenn, Aerie, Johnny and Aaron, and 2 parents, Namor and Susan Storm. This might come as a shock to some considering Susan is usually seen with Reed Richards and the Fantastic Four. Her and Reed are considered the first family of Marvel, so Susan, what is going on? Well, that first family stuff is from Earth 616. We are on Earth 6706. The new Exiles Earth right now, somewhere where Marvel writers finally got to explore a relationship that's been a long time coming. Namor has been interested in the Invisible Woman for a long time, but she, on Earth 616, has always rejected him because she belongs with Mr. Fantastic. But that would be an interesting relationship to explore, so how do you do that without destroying a fan favorite couple? You create a whole new world. In this world, Susan and Namor got together and had 5 kids. Their firstborn, Remy, does the most. He is the oldest. He is also Gambit in this universe. The Black Panther of this world is super evil, and Remy was a key player in his defeat. Remy has had quite the life. He joined the super team, the Exiles, and later became the King of Atlantis. Though he is the Gambit of his world, he doesn't have many shared powers with his Earth 616 counterpart, and no card throwing either, unfortunately. His powers are closer to what his dad can do, plus telekinesis and force fields. Nightcrawler named his daughter Blue, and I can't decide if that is hilarious or wildly uncreative, but I guess it can be both at once. Blue is part of adult Franklin Richards' Earth 811's New Mutants team. She was created for the Days of Future Past timeline from the 90s. Her parents both passed during a Sentinel attack on the X-Mansion. This is the Earth where Sentinels rule North America, and mutants are either deceased or on their way to it. It's assumed that Blue is just like her dad, and that all the powers he had, she has. She has demonstrated she has the ability to teleport herself and others, and she seems well versed in mutant history. Blue has only appeared twice, the first time in New Mutants Annual 6, and then briefly in X-Men Annual 14. This last one we are going to keep short and sweet because these kids have only ever showed up once. Thomas Jefferson, Nina Susan, and Danielle Page Guthrie are the children of Samuel Guthrie, Cannonball, and Lila Cheney. These two are already not the most popular X-Men couple to ever exist, which is criminal because they are awesome. We know next to nothing about their family here on Earth 41,001, but just from looking at them, you can tell who the kids take after. Thomas is clearly his mother's son. He dresses like he loves her style of music, and Nina is her father's daughter dressed all fancy like her dad. The littlest one turned away and still a baby, so only time will tell for Danielle. I'm guessing the kids are mutants and have powers similar to their parents because that would make sense. Their world, Earth 41001, is a possible future for the X-Men, one where all the villains finally did the smart thing and worked together to attack the X-Men all at once. I'm not saying it was the right thing to do, but it was the smart thing to do.
Coming in at number 10, we have Jimmy Hudson, the son of Ultimate Wolverine. In the Ultimate Marvel Universe, things weren't looking too hot. Magneto had gone off the deep end and murdered a large portion of both the world population and the X-Men, even killing Wolverine with a blast powerful enough to rip the adamantium off his bones. Following this universe-changing event, a young boy named Jimmy Hudson was gifted a post-death holographic message from Wolverine, revealing himself to be the boy's father. With the same healing factor and claws as his dad, along with the unique ability to change what substance his claws are made of years before the main Marvel Universe's Wolverine ever heard of hot claws, Jimmy Hudson was an ideal candidate as the X-Men looked to reform after the death of so many members. Coming in at number 9, we have Damian Wayne, the son of Batman. Genetically engineered and grown in an artificial womb following the relationship between Talia al Ghul and Bruce Wayne, Damian was intended by the villain Ra's al Ghul to be his ultimate successor as the ruler of the League of Shadows. Trained to be an assassin from an incredibly young age, Batman wasn't even aware that he had fathered a son until the boy was 10 years old and left in his care by Talia. And while initially the father and son combo had some issues sorting out their issues, and Damian's stance on the whole no-killing rule going against everything Bruce Wayne stood for, Damian has since become an important member of the Bat family as the 5th Robin and continues to be an essential ally of Batman to this day. Coming in at number 8, we have Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Conceived during a Fantastic Four adventure within the Negative Zone, this led to unexpected consequences for both the baby and her mother, with frequent bursts of cosmic radiation endangering everyone nearby. In a really weird twist, the only one who was able to safely deliver the child was Victor Von Doom, the arch-enemy of her own father and the one that gave her the name of Valeria. Although at first glance she appears to not have any powers, Valeria has a greatly increased intelligence due to the cosmic radiation her parents endured, meaning that she's likely to become even smarter than Reed Richards once she's old enough. And in a Marvel universe filled with geniuses, that just might be enough to be one of the more powerful beings in the entire universe. Coming in at number 7, we have Terry McGinnis, aka Batman Beyond. Originally appearing in the beloved animated series of the same name, Terry was the sarcastic and wisecracking next-generation Batman in a dystopian future Gotham, led by an elderly retired Bruce Wayne. However, Terry's connection to Bruce wound up being more than just as an adoptive father, as it was eventually revealed that Bruce Wayne is biologically Terry's father, as Terry's actual dad had his genetics replaced by those of Bruce Wayne, essentially making the two heroes related and Terry the true son of Batman. Even without this connection though, Terry McGinnis stood out as a worthy successor to the Dark Knight, developing his own iconic rogues gallery and even being able to defeat villains that the original Batman never could, such as the Joker. Coming in at number 6, we have Hope Summers. The first mutant born since the Scarlet Witch turned mutant kind into an endangered species, Hope was raised by her adoptive father Cable in the far future of the Marvel Universe, and only returned to her own timeline once her powers had begun to manifest. With the use of the Phoenix Force, Hope was eventually able to restore powers to much of mutant kind and undo the effects of M-Day. Capable of both mimicking and altering the powers of other nearby mutants without any of the usual deadly side effects, Hope's powers were so useful in conjunction with other mutants that she's since become one of the 5 most important beings on the entire island of Krakoa and is a key part of the process that now allows for mutant immortality. Coming in at number 5, we have Wiccan, aka Billy Kaplan. The reincarnated son of the Scarlet Witch, trust me, it's complicated. Wiccan's chaos magic allows him to warp reality without using any strict or regimented spells, rather improvising what he'd like to happen in the heat of combat. A favorite power of Billy's seems to be his electrokinesis as well, allowing him to generate massive amounts of electrical energy, showing that Wiccan's powers are so strong that he's even considered a candidate as the next Sorcerer Supreme on planet Earth. Whatever his future might hold, Wiccan's magic is definitely the kind you don't want to mess with, and is likely to be a major player in the Marvel Universe for many years to come. Coming in at number 4, we have Hero Kala, the son of the Incredible Hulk. An infant son that the Hulk thought he had lost during the destruction of the planet Sakaar, Hero spent many years wandering the galaxy after he survived the explosion due to his mother's last-minute protection. By combining the gamma-empowered strength of his father and the stone-controlling abilities of his mother's old power, Hero was strong enough to steal some of the power cosmic from Galactus and add its strength to his own magic. While not green-skinned or as strong as his dad, Hero Kala has continued to try and lead the Sakaaran people and find them a new suitable home amongst the stars. Coming in at number 3, we have Mark Grayson, aka Invincible. The son of Nolan Grayson, aka Omni-Man, the most powerful superhero in the Image Comics universe, Mark was raised for much of his life fully aware that he was half human and half Viltrumite, but believing his father to be an icon of justice and peace for the world. Unfortunately for Mark, the Viltrumite Empire is actually dead set on conquering the universe, with Omni-Man actually supposed to be preparing the Earth for invasion by Viltrumite forces. Horrified at everything his father stands for, Mark wound up embracing his role as Invincible even more, using his Viltrumite strength to become one of the strongest heroes in his universe, and doing whatever it takes to keep Earth safe from the cosmic forces that threaten it, including his own people. Coming in at number 2, we've got Franklin Richards, the young son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Initially believed to be one of the most powerful mutants in all of existence, as the son of Mr. Fantastic and the Invisible Woman, it was eventually revealed that Franklin's reality warping powers were so great that he'd altered his own X gene in the past to give an origin story to his incredible powers, hiding them as being of mutant origin when they're potentially even more otherworldly. Capable of creating entire universes like some sort of young human celestial, Franklin Richards is one of the most powerful reality manipulators in the entire Marvel universe, and while he hasn't quite made a superheroing career of his own yet, he's definitely on a whole different level of power. And finally, coming in at the top spot, we have Jonathan Kent, the son of Superman. Half Kryptonian and half human, John Kent was the most recent hero to take up the mantle of Superboy, using everything he'd learned from his parents, Clark Kent and Lois Lane, to be an inspiring hero for the people of Earth. Aging quicker than usual due to weird time travel and reality-hopping hijinks, John Kent has since become the new Superman, taking over his father's position as the defender of truth, justice, and a better tomorrow, and trying to find his own place in the growing DC Omniverse. And to make things even more interesting, Batman has even theorized after examining John's DNA that the unique combination of human and Kryptonian genetics in his blood might mean that he could even surpass his own father when it comes to power once he's fully grown.
Number 10, Stargirl. Stargirl is Courtney Whitmore, and while she herself isn't superpowered, she does wield an immensely powerful staff that grants her a ton of power. The staff is known as the Cosmic Staff, and before was wielded by Jack Knight. It also has sometimes been known as the Cosmic Rod. The device itself has tons of powers and abilities and was initially created by Ted Knight, the original Starman. While you might think that removing the staff from Stargirl would work in defeating her if, all of her power is just in this one item, the rod itself can become attuned to users who then use it and summon it with mental commands. At present, it is attuned and bonded to Stargirl, so good luck trying to defeat her, because if you separate her from it, she'll just summon it right back. Powers include gravity and magnetic manipulation, energy projection and absorption, the ability to create energy constructs, force fields, potentially bolster strength, and more.
Number 9, Hero Kala. When the Hulk was banished from Earth by the Illuminati during Planet Hulk, he crash-landed on the planet Sakaar, which is where the Hulk met his second wife, Khaira. Although Khaira appeared to pass away in the destruction of Sakaar, she actually gave birth to Bruce/Hulk's first children, Scar and Hero Kala. Now, a lot of people are aware of Scar, and he even had an appearance in the MCU, although he looks nothing like he should. But Hero Kala seems to be often overlooked. While Scar looks like his dad, Hero Kala takes more after his shadow child mother in more ways than one. Other than being pale, bald, and rather skinny looking, Kala inherited the ancient old power after the destruction of Sakaar. But learning that the old power was corrupt, he just creates the new power by combining the old power with the power cosmic, fueled by hate for Galactus. With this power, Hero Kala has insane levels of durability. He's been able to bestow the power on others, mutating them. He could create force fields capable of taking on a blast from Galactus himself. He had precognitive visions. He could create energy blasts powerful enough to destroy planets and turn into stone. He's incinerated fools, made people's heads explode. He can fly, control tectonic plates, move planets, and pull them out of their orbit. And yeah, he's kind of off the chain. I don't know.
Number 8. Impulse. Bart Allen has been more associated with the Kid Flash name than the main Flash name, though he did at one point dress as the Flash in order to buy time for Wally. Unfortunately, his very brief time impersonating the Flash wearing the costume was cut very short at this time, as Bart was without his powers and ended up being killed. Of course, this was still a very moving story involving Bart, who's probably the most beloved member of the Flash family, with really only Iris and Jay West offering, I would say, any potential competition. These two are also a couple of super lovable cuties as Wally and Linda's kids. Also, despite being young, Bart Allen is still super powerful when he is powered. He can time travel, hop dimensions, and has been shown to be fast enough to fend off and even beat Godspeed, and he can phase. Bart Allen would end up taking up the speedster hero mantle of Impulse.
Number 7. Scarlet Witch. The Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff, is believed to be the daughter of the mutant supervillain and occasional reluctant anti-hero, sort of not really, known as Magneto. Possessing a unique set of reality-altering powers, Wanda is one of the most complex and powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. Her abilities center on chaos magic, enabling her to manipulate probability and reality itself. She can create and alter matter, launch energy blasts, and even reshape the fabric of reality. However, her powers often come at a cost, as they are intrinsically tied to her emotional state. This has led to moments of instability and significant events in Marvel's history, such as the infamous House of M storyline, where she altered reality on a global scale. Now, while she is not officially recognized as an Omega-level threat, her actions show that she can indeed reach those levels. Despite her familial ties to Magneto, Scarlet Witch has displayed various roles, from a member of the Avengers to a pivotal figure in the mutant affairs on the good and the bad sides of things.
Number 6. Billy Batson. Shazam, or Captain Marvel as some still refer to him as today, is one of the most powerful heroes DC has, despite actually being a kid posing as a grown-up magical man and hero. Shazam's powers come from the gods, the limitless wisdom of Solomon, strength of Hercules, stamina of Atlas, power and omnipotence of Zeus, courage of Achilles, and speed of Mercury. There's really no limit, or there really shouldn't be, to what he can do.
Number 5. Proteus. The son of Moira McTaggart and her crummy husband Kevin McTaggart was an Omega-level mutant with psionic reality warping powers, but also a pretty uncontrollable thirst for energy, which made him a danger to everyone around him. Moira was forced to enclose her son in a special status room that would sustain his energy consumption, but when this room was damaged, his body became burnt out, and he needed to possess other human host bodies in order to survive. But these hosts could not contain his energy, so he would burn right through them, leaving whole swaths of bodies in his wake as he moved from one to the next until he managed to possess his own father, Joe. Now, of all the things for an insanely powerful reality warping mutant to be weak to, Proteus here had an inexplicable weakness to metal. After burning out Joe's body and being vulnerable in a form of pure energy, Colossus of the X-Men turned into his metal form and seemingly with one punch disrupts Proteus's energy form, causing a massive light show and scattering Proteus's energy all over Scotland. But But Proteus would go on to return, possessing Blindfold, Destiny, Nightcrawler, Psylocke, Husk, and Trance in one fight, and way later he would eventually become a member of the Five, ensuring the survival of the mutant race. So he's kinda good in that regard, I guess.
Number 4, Naomi. Naomi is probably one of the most powerful of the younger heroes we've seen. Her powers are on the level of heavy hitters such as one of DC's main heroes, Superman. In fact, while transformed into her superhero mode, Naomi's power set is pretty similar, except for one very important and unique element to her. Unlike Superman, whose weakness is magic, Naomi actually bolsters and boosts magic around her. Her powers allow her to generate energy, which she can use in a few different ways. In combat, using it to blast opponents or to give her a physical boost. Alternatively, she can use that same energy to boost magic and magical beings around her, which honestly is pretty neat. However, as Naomi is still young, despite her potential, she still has some learning to do when it comes to her power set and how to best utilize and control it. Still, when she is fully in her power, when that happens, she will be one of the most OP superheroes at DC Comics, I imagine.
Number 3, Legion. David Haller was living in Paris with his mother when her home was suddenly invaded by an assassination team. Like that happens all the time. They took out David's stepfather before his eyes, which kicked off his latent psionic powers, which he then used to incinerate the brains of the assassins. However, as he did so, he also made telepathic contact with each of his victims, thus experiencing their thoughts and emotions as they passed away, which deeply affected David, forcing him into a catatonic state. At the same time, the consciousness of the leader of the assassins, Jamail Karami, was absorbed and merged into David's mind. All this happening had somehow splintered David's personality into multiple alters, with each of these alters controlling a different psionic power. Because of this, Legion is an Omega level mutant able to create spontaneous mutations of different kinds, including reality warping, that are accompanied by new personas or alters to govern each one of these new mutations. The whole reason David even has an X gene, though, is likely due to the fact that he is the son of the father figures to mutants everywhere, Professor Charles Xavier.
Number 2, Franklin Richards, or at the very least an alternate Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards of Earth 616 has had his mutant status removed and has been significantly nerfed in recent years, and while I'm personally not convinced this will end up staying a permanent change to his character, I don't think it's been undone yet, and it's been a while, so I might be waiting for some time. It would seem that Franklin had been using his powers to alter his genetics to appear as a mutant, but in reality was not, as Lady Gaga would say, born this way. This was not intentionally done, but apparently was subconsciously done, and when his powers started to go all wonky, eventually his unintentional genetic manipulation came to an end, exposing him basically as a fake mutant. A future Franklin Richards of Earth 10774, however, seemed to have remained a mutant, either permanently one in this future, or simply not exposing that he had unintentionally faked his mutant genes. It was the Mad Celestials in this future that literally identified him as beyond Omega level.
And in at number 1 today, it's Hyperstorm. Hyperstorm, or as he is known in his civilian identity, Jonathan Richards, is a character I think a lot of people forget about. His heritage finds its roots in 2 of Marvel's most prominent and powerful bloodlines. His father is Franklin Richards, the reality warping son of Reed Richards and Sue Storm of the Fantastic Four that Amanda just talked about. But his mother is Rachel Summers, an incredibly powerful telekinetic and telepathic mutant who is the daughter of Scott Summers and Jean Grey of the X-Men. With these 2 incredibly powerful and influential family trees fueling Jonathan, he became one of the most powerful beings we have ever seen in Marvel Comics. He is essentially infinite psionic power drawn from hyperspace, allowing him control over the 4 fundamental forces of the universe, those being the strong and weak nuclear forces, electromagnetism, and gravitation. Theoretically, this means he can restructure, create, manipulate, and or destroy matter from a cosmic scale down to a subatomic level. He can create electromagnetic fields and electrical currents, make matter radioactive, manipulate gravity, cause nuclear detonations, emit enormous energy blasts, and honestly, accomplish nearly anything he sets his mind to. And then, he also has telepathy, telekinesis, and can heal from pretty much anything. And he has used these powers to conquer all of the inhabited worlds of the explored space of the alternate reality of Earth 967. And he's even messed with his ancestors in the Fantastic Four of the past. Coming in at number 10 today is Damian Wayne. Wayne. Damian Wayne is the 5th person to assume the role of the Caped Crusaders' ward, Robin. But Damian is more than that. As you might have surmised from the last name, Damian Wayne is none other than the son of Bruce Wayne, Batman. Much to the Dark Knight's surprise, the assassin Talia al Ghul, daughter of Ra's al Ghul, had, in secret, given birth to Damian, and she had been raising the little Wayne in secret within the League of Assassins. Now, he first burst onto the scene in Batman and Robin Volume 2, Number 1 in November of 2011, and caused quite the uproar within the Bat family. Being raised surrounded by a bunch of assassins, he found adjusting to the morals of his father to be somewhat challenging, but he has stepped into the role really well. He is lethal, volatile, and arrogant, but he has adjusted to the ways of being a hero and wants nothing more than to be the best hero he can be for Gotham and for his father. Similar to Jonathan Kent, Damian is set to be an even more successful Batman when he inevitably takes over the role, and with all the training he has from basically birth, it doesn't surprise me either. Number 9. Hit Girl. We don't really talk about Kick-Ass so much, and that makes sense when talking about powerful heroes because there isn't really anyone from the Kick-Ass comic who is really super powered. But in terms of sheer capability, Mindy McCready, aka Hit Girl, the sidekick to the hero Big Daddy, and also his daughter, is probably the most capable character in the whole thing. Mindy can take out hordes of armed mob henchmen in seconds with her double-bladed polearm, and she does, tearing through enemies with such finesse she makes it look like a dance. Her unusually refined skills are all thanks to the pretty ruthless training she undergoes at the hands of her father, Big Daddy. Although it's not revealed till later, Big Daddy was a cop who essentially went rogue and tricked Mindy into training her whole childhood to become Hit Girl and fight crime with a bogus story that her mother had been taken out by a particular mafia boss. Using that made-up backstory as motivation, the two trained in all forms of lethal weaponry and martial arts to become strong enough to take on their target. Although Big Daddy himself isn't really a pushover, he does not have the same kind of fighting style as Mindy. Being able to take out groups of armed grown men in melee combat is a testament to just how strong she is, and she isn't even an adult yet, so just imagine what she could actually achieve later on. Number 8. Invincible. Mark Grayson, aka Invincible, is a member of the race known as the Viltrumites, a group of extremely powerful human-like aliens who, due to their diminished numbers, go solo out into the universe to conquer planets for their empire. Now, Mark's dad, Omni-Man, is the most powerful superhero on Earth, until one day he reveals his true Viltrumite mission and does battle with his son, who convinces him to the error of his ways. Now, Viltrumites are basically immortal. They age at an extremely slow rate, which slows down even further as they mature, eventually stopping altogether. They also get stronger and stronger with age, and every time they are defeated or gravely hurt in combat, they will heal very quickly to become even stronger than they were before. Viltrumites can also fly and survive the vacuum of space. Mark, his dad, and another Viltrumite once flew through the core of a planet, completely destroying that planet. That's how powerful Viltrumites are. But Mark himself has defeated people much more powerful than himself, with sheer willpower and determination, even those who have defeated his much more experienced father. He eventually becomes a galactic peacekeeper, bringing the whole entire universe to a state of complete peace and prosperity, which is something his dad just could not do. Number 7. Ultimate Red Skull. I'm cheating for this point, as this is totally a villain. In the Ultimate Universe, Steve Rogers and his girlfriend at the time, Gail Richards, ended up having a little one-night get-together in 1945 before he went and got himself popsicled. 9 months later, out popped a baby that the government decided needed to be kept a secret. They took the boy into foster care on a military base, training him to become a super soldier to replace the supposedly deceased Captain America. This child soon became stronger and more tactically skillful than his father, and by all intents and purposes seemed like the perfect compliant soldier. But in the background, Roger's son had been carefully planning his escape and was just biding his time. Now fast forward to 1963, when he was finally at the age of 17, and the son went on a spree, de-lifing all the doctors and soldiers at the facility. He also used a kitchen knife to carve the skin from his head, literally becoming the bloody Red Skull. In rebellion against the system that created him, this Red Skull was the one who planned President John F. Kennedy's send-off to the grave. He became an assassin and tries to eventually steal Reed Richards' plans for the Cosmic Cube in order to use it to change history so that he could just grow up with his dad. And that's really sad. Number 6. Franklin Richards. When Reed Richards and Sue Storm had a child together, a whole bunch of cosmic tomfoolery went on, resulting in Franklin Richards being born with powers to alter matter on a universal scale. I wish that happened every day. In other words, he can basically manipulate reality on a cosmic level, which is an insane amount of power for a kid to wield. He's put mental blocks on himself to help control this power, but that doesn't mean he can't still do a hell of a lot. Or at least he used to be able to. Some of the things that Franklin Richards has done include when all the mutants were destroyed by Onslaught, Franklin resurrected them all and put them in a universe that he just created. When Abraxas took out all the versions of Galactus, Franklin resurrected him. He's also resurrected Galactus and literally made him his herald. Recently, it was revealed that instead of being a mutant, Franklin actually altered every cell within his own body to appear like he had the X gene to fit in with all the other mutants. There's even a fan theory that Franklin Richards controls the Marvel multiverse itself to stop characters from aging throughout the many years that they have been around, and it's honestly kind of possible. And he's just the son of a guy who can stretch really long. Number 5, Nate Gray. For a guy named X-Man, he's gotta be a powerful character, and Nate Gray definitely is. Nate Gray comes from the Age of Apocalypse timeline. He was created by Mr. Sinister using the DNA of both Scott Summers, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. There are a few characters who are the child of these two mutants, namely, there is Cable. Now, Cable has huge psionic abilities, but because of being infected by the techno-organic virus, almost all of his energy goes towards keeping himself alive. Nate Gray is basically Cable without that limitation. When he finally came into the 616 reality, he was able to hide himself from Cerebro, which is supposed to be impossible. He is described as being on the same level of power as Jean Grey harnessing the Phoenix Force, which is one of the greatest threats the X-Men and the world has ever faced. He can read the minds of others, he can sense the emotions and histories left on objects, detect rifts in space and time, move into the astral plane where he can see the future, and after he had a bit of practice, he could even increase the power of other mutants. He has cured cancer, destroyed cities on the other side of the Earth during a nightmare, manipulated matter to a cosmic scale, and traveled through space and time. He is basically Mutant Jesus. Just look at him. Number 4, Mustang. What if number 114 posed us the question of, what if the heroes didn't leave Battleworld? Well, the answer to that question is, they make babies. While there are a few super kids in this story, the one I found to be the strangest and most interesting was Mustang. Mustang is Clint Barton Jr., and I bet you'll never guess who his daddy is. His mother, on the other hand, is actually also not surprising if you just look at Mustang. It's Jennifer Walters, the She-Hulk. So with these two avenging parents, that leaves Mustang with a super strength that isn't quite on She-Hulk's level and an affinity for using bows and arrows. It's kind of an odd combo. Now he's a bit taller than almost everyone else too, which also makes sense given Jennifer Walters. This, I'm guessing, gives him the ability to use bigger bows with much higher tensile strength, so he can shoot much bigger arrows, I guess. He can fire them faster, something like that. I'm not saying these powers aren't helpful or cool, super strength is a classic. They are just kind of odd when you put super strength with bows and arrows. I don't know. Also, I don't know why they call them Mustang. Number 3, Moondragon. Heather Douglas, the daughter of one Arthur Douglas, also known as Drax the Destroyer, is actually one of the most powerful human-born telepaths in existence. She gained this power after being trained under the Shaolin monks of Titan, thanks to Thanos' father, Mentor, taking her in. Now, her telepathic abilities rival and surpass even those of powerful mutants like Professor X. With this power, she was able to mentally control an entire planet of beings who were constantly at war with each other, bringing peace to that entire planet. She has been in a psionic stalemate with the Sorcerer Supreme, and she's even straight up de-lifed a clone of Thanos, who at the time had even greater mental powers than Professor X himself. Her powers are so powerful, in fact, that they can maintain themselves subconsciously, meaning that even if she is unconscious, she will maintain the effects of those powers. A huge part of her character, even the reason for her awesome Moondragon name, comes from the fact that she is, or was, actually under the influence of an extremely powerful entity known as the Dragon of the Moon, who has been controlled controlling her for a long time, even initially letting her believe that she had overcome the demon. But thanks to this dragon, she has been able to take on a dragon form, where she can move faster than light, survive in space, and was super strong and durable, and she looked like a dragon. That's just cool. Number 2, Mayday Parker. First appearing in a What If comic, specifically number 105 from December 1997, the daughter of Peter Parker and Mary Jane from a future alternate world, Earth 982, Mayday Parker becomes Spider-Girl and eventually Spider-Woman, and fills the role that her father once held as the next generation of heroes. Now, where May is only slightly weaker than Parker in the strength department, she is much more agile and has a stronger, more precise spider sense. Her ability to stick to surfaces is considerably more powerful than Peter's as well. However, wall crawling does not come as naturally to May, and she has to concentrate to stick to surfaces. She also has the ability to transmit her sticking to surfaces through objects for short distances. So basically, Spider-Girl could stick to the floor and transmit that through the floor, making everyone and everything else stuck in place as well, which is really weird and kind of boggles my mind. But what's even cooler is that she can reverse the ability, and instead of stick, she can repel off of surfaces. Now this adds power to her jumps, sure, but it can also be used to repel people and objects away from her at speed, like a force push. And Peter, he just can't do that. So, here you go. Finally, in at number 1 today, Cassandra Cain. Sandra Woo-san is one of the deadliest martial artists in the world. As a kid, Sandra and her sister Carolyn trained with each other, creating a unique martial art that they mastered and would display in spars with each other, which, unfortunately, gained the attention of David Cain, Ra's al Ghul, and the League of Assassins. Sandra always held back against her sister, and in order to unlock her true potential, David Cain removed Carolyn from the equation. Now this did allow Sandra to unlock her true potential and to become a martial artist with almost no rival except for one, her own daughter, Cassandra Cain. Cassandra is easily the toughest Batgirl and arguably the most skilled member of the Bat family, mainly because of her skill with hand-to-hand combat. Thanks to her highly unique fighting style coupled with all of her training at the hands of her parents, she could easily defeat her predecessor Barbara Gordon, but even Batman would be given a run for his money in a straight-up fistfight. Cassandra has beaten her own mother, Lady Shiva, who we just talked about, and her father, David Cain, and they are two of the best fighters in the DC universe. She was brought into the world and trained by the League of Assassins to be the quote, one who is all, and also the ultimate bodyguard for Ra's al Ghul. She received even more training from Bronze Tiger, Merlin the Archer, Batman himself, Lady Shiva, her mother, Oracle, and Black Canary. She has near metahuman levels of speed, immense resistance to pain, and she can read people's body language, which allows her to mimic anyone's fighting style and predict all their next moves.
Number 10, Hyperman. Hyperman is the son of Superman and Wonder Woman, who comes from the reality belonging to the Kingdom Come story and follow-up story, The Kingdom. In that story, little baby John Kent is taken by Gog. He ends up being rescued by two different versions of his parents and his godfather, Batman. In the end, the child goes off with his future self, the hero Hyperman, who also rules and guards over all of Hypertime. Hyperman raises the child, that is also technically him, on his own, continuing the circle and pretty much guaranteeing that John Kent will grow up to become Hyperman, a time-traveling, dimension-hopping, insanely powerful hero. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, be sure to show us you love us by clicking that like button. Number 9, Scarlet Spider. Felicity Hardy is the hero Scarlet Spider in the MC2 reality of Earth 982. Of course, she is the daughter of Black Cat, aka Felicia Hardy, and Flash Thompson, Peter's childhood tormentor turned best friend. Felicia later leaves Flash and starts a relationship with her work colleague Diana, which puts strain on her relationship with her daughter. Scarlet Spider was trained by her mother, has a brilliant investigative mind, and uses gadgets in order to simulate spider-like abilities while acting as a hero. She's also a friend and ally of Spider-Girl Mayday Parker, the daughter of Peter Parker's Spider-Man and Mary Jane Watson in this reality. Number 8, Warhawk. Warhawk is the future son of Green Lantern John Stewart and Hawkgirl from the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe. He first appeared in the animated series Batman Beyond and was created by Paul Dini and Alan Burnett. Warhawk's real name is Rex Stewart, and he was actually named after one of John's friends from the military, Rex Mason, who would later go on to become the Element Man Metamorpho. Warhawk gets super strength from his mom and has an extremely strong set of armor, complete with wings, as those he was actually not born with, so gotta make your own. Bring your own wings. BYOW. Number 7. Superman. Jonathan Kent is the natural-born son of Lois Lane and Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, aka Superman. He was born during the events that caused a reset of the universe when the New 52 came about. He and his family were relocated to the New 52 Prime Earth, even though they were originally from the New Earth continuity, meaning that for a while we actually had 2 Supermans on planet Earth, although one was operating in secret, that one being John's dad. Currently, we also have 2 Supermans on planet Earth right now, with John being one of them. John would become good friends with another super son, Damian Wayne, Batman's son. Damian and John initially did not get along at first, but would eventually find common ground and then become pretty much the best of friends. Of course, then John went off to space and grew up rapidly, returning to Earth and taking up the mantle of Superman himself. So now he's kind of a little bit older than Damian is. It's a weird spacey thing. John's powers are at a very similar scope and level, but as a human Kryptonian hybrid, he apparently does have the potential to become even more powerful than Clark. That's been stated in the comics. Even though you would think that his human half might make him weaker, it actually has the opposite effect. Number 6. Magni Thorson. Magni is the son of Thor. He hails from the alternate future reality of Earth 3515, which was erased from existence at the behest of kind of Magni himself in essence. Although he loved his son, the future Allfather Thor, who had Magni with his queen Amora, the Enchantress, ended up traveling back in time to actually warn his past self about everything that would come to pass should he rule over Midgard, which was what led him down this darker path in the first place, creating this alternate reality and along with it his son Magni, who ends up having to kind of like fight against his dad later to make him see sense. Thor of the present listened to the warning of his future self and heeded it, preventing this version of Magni from really ever existing. When he did exist though, Magni was considered to be similar to Thor in his abilities, but he was also believed to be even stronger physically than even Thor had been, being known as the God of Strength. Magni was also capable of wielding Mjolnir in his lifetime. Number 5. Tim Drake. Tim Drake is known for being probably one of the smartest children of Batman around. Although Tim had parents in the original continuity of New Earth, he was adopted by Bruce Wayne, so at least then and there he was considered an adoptive son. Now in the current continuity, his backstory hasn't become quite so tragic, and I think his parents are still alive. While Tim might not be the best marksman or fighter of the Bat family bunch, he is definitely the most intelligent and best detective when it comes to living up to Batman's legacy. And in fact, it's even been implied that he is basically going to be, if he isn't already, like a better detective than Batman, which is pretty crazy. Number 4. Starbrand. Brandy Selby became the adopted goddaughter of Thor in issue number 32 of the 2018 Avengers series. He promised to take care of her after the Avengers, as he saw it, failed her mother, who ended up dying in childbirth. Thor especially felt bad as he had succumbed to being possessed by the Brood at the time, and really wasn't much help to the team when they came across the previous Starbrand, Suzanne, Brandy's mother, who went into labor. She gave birth to a healthy baby girl but did not survive the delivery. She passed on her Starbrand to her unnamed baby, who was then later named Brandy by the Avengers. The Avengers themselves took Brandy in and did their best to raise her as a group. Unfortunately, while Brandy has one of the greatest cosmic powers in the universe, bearing the mark of the Starbrand, she also experienced complications when using her powers, becoming aged every time she used them. In the end, she chose to use her powers one last time, sacrificing herself to save the multiverse in an effort to help the rest of her Avengers family and team. Number 3. Unknown Baby. Baby has no name. Probably May though. Probably May. This has been something that has always left me wondering in the comics, and which was recently kind of touched on in terms of the potential of their offspring. MJ and Peter have gotten pregnant a few times in the comics, but one of their children, who was born in the main continuity in Amazing Spider-Man issue 418, we never really got to know. The child was spirited away shortly after being born, and MJ was made to believe that they didn't survive. This was all revealed to be part of a plot conducted by Norman Osborn, of course, who sought to take the offspring. Why? For what purpose? Well, we never really found out about that. During Identity Crisis, there was a hint that May would return, but it would turn out to be Peter's Aunt May and not the daughter of Mary Jane and Peter, who was probably going to be named May. It's been stated in the comics before that Norman disposed of this offspring after having one of his employees, Allison Mongrain, take the child to Europe. However, more recently at the end of Nick Spencer's Spider-Man run, it was also implied that this child might be the key to defeating Mephisto, suggesting that Mephisto actually took MJ and Peter's marriage years before in an attempt to avoid defeat at the hands of their daughter. Number 2. Legion. Legion is the son of Professor Charles Xavier, who was born out of his brief but really intense romantic relationship with Gabrielle Haller. When Charles and Gabrielle broke things off, Charles left not knowing that she was pregnant. Gabrielle is where Legion gets his legal last name from, as his given name is David Haller. Legion is so powerful because while possessing severe dissociative identity disorder, he has more than 100, I believe possibly even more than 200 at this point, personas residing within him. Each persona has a number, and many of them actually have names, but most importantly, they each have their own specific power set that manifests whenever they take over Legion. Because of this, there's almost nothing that Legion can't do. He can manipulate matter and time. We've seen Legion time travel in the comics and completely warp reality as a result of his insanely powerful abilities. He also has some pretty powerful hair, which I'm happy to say he still rocks even in the current modern day comics. Number 1. Dream. Dream is definitely one of the most powerful children out there, and if you're wondering how Dream of the Endless is considered a child of a superheroes, let me explain. Daniel is the son of Lita and Hector. In the Sandman comics and in the DC universe, Hippolyta, or Lita as we sometimes refer to her, was the hero known as Fury, who was considered in a previous continuity to be the daughter of Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, who Diana had after she settled down and someone retired. Had with Steve, obviously. Hector Hall himself was also a legacy hero here, the son of Hawkman and Hawkgirl. Hector was known by a few different names before his death, chiefly the Silver Scarab and, of course, the Sandman. He would later return and become known as Dr. Fate as well. Daniel, therefore, is descended of 2 superheroes. Because he was conceived in the dreaming, Lord Morpheus, the previous dream, actually claimed baby Daniel, promising to one day return for him. This day came when it was time for Morpheus to basically die and for a new dream to take his place. Enter Daniel, who became the new dream and one of the most powerful beings in all of existence.